Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to part 3 of the show. We've been looking at Flash in this here Day 9 Daily number 726, where we learn that my chair is squeakier than you might have expected. And we've talked about adjustment and change and how the same build, the persistence in the same build, has been so beneficial for Flash. It's not just a good build, it is a build where you can make many small adjustments that together allow you to deal with very many different circumstances profitably. Well, where profit is measured in fucking ladder points. Ladder dollars, you know what I'm saying? Throwing out them singles. Oh yeah, bring ladder points to the strip club, ladies and gentlemen. Here on the Day 9 Daily, we're gonna reappropriate your mental valuation of shit. Bang! Let me once again emphasize that I sincerely apologize to all those who are doing the Day 9 drinking game, because I think that there should be no more alcohol left in your states, given how many of the violations I've done to the rule set. I think today's word of the day is adjustment, too. Ooh, it's brutal. So we see Mr. Flash going for one of the other traditional opening builds. He's going for a Reaper opening. And we gotta go to... Why am I sideways? Oh, I misclicked. Oh my god, that was so good. Bang. We're going to take a look at this. On this map, you cannot spawn in these horizontal positions because there's some BS that can occur. So it's like vert or cross. Vert or cross only. So great, we see the command center, we see the Reaper, immediately followed by a reactor. This is very typical. It's also typical to scout with the SCV first, and then to send the Reaper in secondarily, just to make sure there's no specific cheeses, because the Reaper can get easily caught out of position. So nothing too extraordinary. Also, these guys have been pulled out of the refinery. Actually, I'll just show it. I'm not even gonna... I don't work in theory, guys. Yeah, right when this reactor was built, these guys were pulled out of the refinery. This is all standard, mannered. As you'd expect, and then that goes down, and shazam, pazam, pazoo. The Reaper will try to scout you. Yeah, this is all roughly to be expected, roughly to be anticipated. But why do this build on this particular map? Or excuse me, we're going to see early pressure out of Flash, and why do that on this particular map? Well, because there's no ramp here. There's no good place to force field this expansion. I mean, if this were the entrance to the base, this would be hard to enter. Imagine for a moment that there is a huge wall here, and this were the only entrance. Well then, yeah, Flash would be crazy to do an early pressure. He'd get sliced in half by force fields. Here, you need a lot of force fields in order for something bad to happen. For something bad, see, bad. What's this early Reaper here for? It's to keep tabs on stuff and to make sure that nothing too aggression-focused is coming out for Flash. Jesus. If I need to make good points, I should make sure to get the player names right. Ding! Flash is keen on doing some early pressure. So in his opening build, this Reaper it's like the vanguard of the early pressure. It's going to make sure that there's no crazy stuff. If there were no Reaper, and Flash decided to move out and to do early pressure, it's very easy for Flash to be here, halfway across the map, and to run into a whole bunch of units that kill him, and he's like, "Aw, shucks." This Reaper is trying to make sure there's no loss circumstances upcoming. And we see combat shield go down. We also see no bunker going down. Back to the Flash cam. Back to Mr. Flash. Just checking for that mama ship call. And, you know, I talked about, oh, wouldn't it be great if you could get into the base every time? Well, you can't. Don't obsess about the base. He's just sitting at the front, man. This is the only place that a probe can move down, that the initial army units will move down. Flash is content to say, dude, this guy's not doing early pressure. I haven't seen it come out. You can't scout the base that often, but you don't need to scout the base that often. You scout the front. So up to this point, Flash is like, dude, are you going to be oracling in my main? Are you going to be attacking at the front? Well, I don't see an attack at the front. I don't see any of that other stuff in the main. I don't see an oracle in my main. So yeah, okay, I'm just going to work on the assumption that, boy, you're doing your standard stuff. One thing I love about Flash, one thing I love about any excellent player, they move out when those juicy key upgrades are about 2/3 done. I want you to do this. If you have an attack planned, move out when all the pieces to the attack are 2/3 done. Is it a combat shield based attack? Move out when that combat shield is 2/3 done. Medevacs? Well, move out when the medevacs are 2/3 of the way done. So you're almost at the other side of the map. Oh, it works in so many ways. It's excellent. Another little tiny adjustment. This attack has 2 Marauders in it. But once the attack's moved out, Flash rallies right back into the main base and goes all Marine. He doesn't keep hitting the D button. He's just not that interested in the D. I mean, he'll use 2 Ds if he has to, but he's not going to commit to that at any time too soon. So here's Mr. Reaper. I want you to keep an eye on our buddy. Meanwhile, back home, factory coming up. 3 gas total coming up, and soon enough an engineering bay will be coming up. Mr. Mariner's just waiting. Combat shield done. Research complete. Remember Mr. Reaper? Well, he's just going to go straight into the main base and get a scout, because there's an attack going on right now. Ooh. Oh. What juicy thing are we walking away with here? Oh, that's right. I can always scout the front thanks to the Reaper. And wouldn't it be great to scout the main? Oh, it's hard to scout the main. Unless you have a big attack threatening to end the frickin' game. Then it's pretty damn easy to scout the main. The Stalkers have to go left. They can't be chillin'. Let's go to Monsieur Gramal. Alright, and look at this. Picking off probes like it's nothing. Doesn't do good scouting. Hey, look, these probes are coming. Oh! I kind of wanted to get those killed, but you know what? I'll live with it. Meantime, oh, I'm sorry, there was no engineering bay that was built. There was no such thing. Flash just went straight up to Starport, continued to build and to rally into his main base. He has the 3 add-ons up on up. An even trade? I think not. That was good for Flash. There's that engineering bay. It's a little bit behind. There's the bunker at the front. It's a little bit behind. We rearranged the pieces. We adjusted, but we didn't change. There's no drastically different thing going on here. It all elegantly dips back to what many people would call standard. Oh, it's standard. And yet nothing has been too standard at any point throughout this. So I think this is a pretty cool play by Mr. Flash. As he's moving in here, Mr. Flash sees a robo, sees some of the other pieces, and he's gonna go for a medevac drop. Why? Because his opponent probably has Colossus. Now, Blink Stalkers can shut down that, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't just show the damn medevacs and force him to stay home and force him to stay defensive. That forcing, the fact that you force him to stay defensive, allows you to be bold and build your damn command center right out. How many medevacs are we seeing? 2. Flash almost immediately goes straight right out the hell into more Viking production. Nice. I gotta speed this puppy up if I want to get to the last game. So he just walks in, sees that there's not a lot of stalkers, kills, is able to kill off a Colossus. Great, he's just keeping his opponent back, he's keeping his opponent pinned. Hey, we killed off a Colossus, we don't need a lot of Vikings for now. Let's add on some of those more medevacs. Trying to apply pressure at the front, good stuff, killing off other things, good stuff. And look at this. Where's these extra barracks? Yeah! We've been seeing Flash, in this period of time, de-emphasize upgrades, and generally is emphasizing, like, getting varying and different techs, like getting both ghosts and a second starport. Here he's actually being brave and getting an extra set of barracks, which is pretty sensible if you've locked your opponent out of a third, and you can overwhelm him pretty easily. If your opponent's ever low on units, this is almost always a good thing to do. To just do drops and split your opponent up. Because you can almost always retreat and you can't pursue. But hey, look at this. We're going straight for the Ghost Academy. Yeah. Straight for Ghost Academy. Flooding out units. Being a little bit light on the Vikinging because he just sees no Colossus. If your opponent's light on units, you can pretty much always get away with this. But I'd like to note that Flash is just not really ever getting this extra engineering base stuff. He's instead favoring getting both Ghosts and Vikings really fast. One of the last things that we see Flash do in any game is get that 2-2. We're going to see the same thing in the third game, or third final game. Excuse me, the fifth and final game. We're going to wait a little bit, so he just waltzes up here, gets a lot of EMPs off, and then 1As for the hoorays. I think he's even doing a drop up here with Vikings, but whatever. Some truly sexy stuff that is a baseline for this next game. Whoa, up one folder. Alright. Nimbus LE. Look at that. Zest is only Platinum League. How embarrassing. Don't tell his team. He's going to get fired. They're going to bring him in. There's going to be that big team manager with a cigar. He's going to say, Platinum League, you see? That's bad, you see? Alright. Now, one of the greatest things about sameness of builds is that it can be very difficult for your opponent to properly predict. We like to think of wide ranges of craziness as being the way that you can predict. Or we think of big ranges of strategies. That would be the quality that makes someone unpredictable. But again, weirdly, sameness causes you to mispredict almost more often than different craziness. Because your opponent is going to say, oh yeah, he plays standard. And they're going to scout your base and go, oh yeah, he's doing a standard opening. And then they're going to just tune out and stop thinking. Very, very, very common. There's a lot of players that I've talked to after tournament losses where they'll say things like, dude, I thought he was doing something crazy aggressive when he moved at me early. And it turns out the opponent is just doing, like Flash, a very standard, typical opening, just happened to identify a time that he could attack. And Flash is like still taking a third and still doing all that other sort of stuff. I'm kind of going off on a tangent. Let's focus more on the game. So yeah, we got the Reaper coming out, gets some kills, but now it's just chilling, making sure there's no big stressful stuff coming up. And now Flash is sneaking in expansion. Ooh! Now let's look back home. Nothing mining gas. What do the next funds do? Barracks, barracks, just as expected. We see that it's a robo facility from Zest, nothing out of the ordinary. Flash even gets in and sees exactly what's going on. Not going to do this in the dark, is in fact going to be sending a little Mr. Marine out just to make sure. But look at what's going on in this base. Look what's going on in this base. He's getting this tech lab up. Is he going to get combat shield for an early attack? No, he's going to be getting stim.
Upgrade complete.
more standard-focused one. It's the same opening as before, but now there's that little adjustment where if this observer gets in, the observers are just moving out right now. Wait, holy crap, he doesn't even know where Terran is yet. Well, if the observer had moved in, it would just see, oh yeah, the tech lab's glowing. Something pretty standard. It can't see that this is early or late or whatever. Flash is getting his scan, man. He can afford to do it. He has an early third command center. So the fact that this is all the same, the fact that this at this moment even looks really damn similar to those first 3 games we saw Flash. We have some Marines moving out. Look at this. These Marines moving out allow Flash to be real bold when he places that third down. Super duper bold. Things are still coming out in pretty much the same order, where we see the double medevac first, immediately followed by double Viking production. Okay, so cool. Flash is in a very different circumstance than any of the games we've seen, but he opened up in a very much so the same way as the last game, which is allowing him to get away with all this really cutesy, dootsy stuff like this base. Now, in order to bring this all together, I want to emphasize, he saw Colossus, and therefore he instantly gets himself that second starport. And I'm going to go to this. And almost always, if a player gets this early expansion, you can now easily afford all the gas that you need to get these double upgrades. Isn't that kind of interesting that in 5 games of Terran vs. Protoss, Flash never even got the chance to get 2-2. It's not that he was like en route to 2-2 and didn't get it, he just like didn't get it. Like at all. I think maybe the last game was one exception where he was like a third of the way there when the game was ended. But the highest upgrade he has had for any of his things is 1-1, and all these games have gone on average 17 to 20 minutes. This is like crazy. It's crazy compared to normal play. So Flash gets attacked, he lifts, he runs, a medevac comes, he lands, he stays, he stands. What was the other thing that happened here? Oh yeah, again, really fast Ghost Academy. Fast Ghost Academy and fast double starport. Very much so de-emphasizing of the basic barracks units. But here's, I think, something super cool. All this stuff that we're seeing out of Flash has been mid-game plays. He's gone 5 barracks, he's gone double starport, and he's gone fast Ghost Academy. In almost every game, he has won with that combination play. What is the ultra late game play for Flash? So I want you to think about this. Suppose you're a Terran player, and you get to ultra late game, where you get to have whatever you want. Most Terrans that I see build a Doom army, where they have like 16 Vikings, enough to one-shot a Colossus. They have like 12 Ghosts, enough to deal with those pesky Templar. They have a chunk of Marine Marauder medevac to form the core of the army. Right? I think that's what most of the time we see. Here's the weird thing that we're going to see out of Flash. Oh, actually, let me extend that. So you have your fantasy endgame Deathball army for Terran. So what happens if your army starts to die? What happens if you lose 8 Vikings? What are you normally going to say? You're going to go, oh, well, I now need to build 8 more Vikings so I can get back to my Death Force number of 16. And that's a little bit thoughtless. And I'm not saying that's thoughtless in a bad way. And a lot of times, if you have a game as complicated as StarCraft, you want to create mental shortcuts, like, okay, my Death Army just has 12 Ghosts, 16 Vikings, and all the rest Marine Marauder medevac. Done. That's my play. And then you stop thinking about the composition that you're seeing out of your opponent. Here's what we'll see out of Flash. He, in the mid-game, with these units, or excuse me, in the mid-game he uses these buildings, 5 barracks, 2 starports, and a ghost academy, to build the deathful counter-army of many ghosts and many Vikings. But in late game, he's just flooding basic barrack units. So in the late game, he's actually cutting out Vikings and cutting out ghosts. He has his most tech-heavy army in the mid-game, and then kind of flattens out to a low-tech, massive army. Why the F would you do that? I don't know why I said F. I say fuck on this show all the time. What in the double fuck would cause Flash to think such shenaniganry? Why would he do that? Well, great. This game's going to provide us a very thoughtful and thought-provoking example. So everything that we're seeing out of Flash, I'd say, is fairly typical. Getting Vikings, getting ghosts, getting lots of barracks. Most players, though, stop at 8. They don't really get that much more beyond this. Most players stop at 66 SCVs or less, and don't get much more than that. Believe this, 80 SCVs is the number for Flash. 80. So check this out. Flash gets maxed. He almost has his ghosties out. He has 11 Vikings. He has a lot. He has close to a death ball of that. He has 6 ghosts starting to get up there. And then he just starts to do these crazy big warp-ins. He starts to take out these Colossus. Now, I want you to think about this in the context of a standard Terran versus Protoss. Right now, most people would be going, oh shit, all my Vikings are dead. Most Terran players would be going, oh shit, I gotta get those Vikings back. Oh god, do I have enough ghosts? Okay, I need to make sure I have enough ghosts. However, Flash was able to pick off a Colossus and identify that his opponent didn't have that many Colossus. Look at the production tab, no Vikings. More medevacs, more bio. More medevacs, more bio. You don't need a lot of Vikings if your opponent doesn't have a lot of Colossus. If you get a nice counter mid-game army, if you get a shitload of ghosts and a shitload of Vikings, and eliminate the Colossus count, you can begin to just pump basic bio out. And look, 3 Vikings is it. 6 Vikings, with 3 of them being well far behind. In this battle, with only 3, soon-to-be 6 Vikings, Flash is safe to push. Because there's not that many Colossus. Look, there's 2 of them. There's not 16 Vikings. Flash doesn't have to wait for 16 of them. He just goes early. And there's 1 going down. Okay, so we are getting hurt pretty bad by that remaining Colossus, but we're gonna get it. Okay, look at production. Look at all the bio just jamming out of 11 barracks. No Vikings up here. No Vikings. Just medevacs. Bio-focused. If you can kill all those Colossus with that Doom Force, you can go super light on the Vikings. Super heavy on the bio. And do this sort of crazy drop-in stuff. Look at this. There's no Vikings in production. I mean, there's no Colossus here right now, but it's really easy if you see like 4 or 5 Colossus to pull out to do a drop like this. Flash is doing a very unusual look in a late-game turn versus Protoss. He is being aggressive in a seeming non-stop fashion. Why was he able to do that? Because he wound back until he has this big trigger of massive barracks numbers, and then he can just pump out bio. Look, just a few Vikings. Imagine this fight, but with 16 Vikings instead of 3. I mean, you're just going to do badly on the ground. So, what we saw in all 5 games is that Flash stays very low on basic barracks units. In the mid-game, he favors the double starport and the very fast Ghost Academy, and just discards this massive upgrade thing. that so many Terran players do. He's discarding 2/2 in favor of lots of Vikings and Ghosts with his Bioforce. Generally even only has 2 medevacs in these forces, because that is how light he is being on his bio focus. He is focusing on the Vikings and the Ghosts. But this game shows that an interesting endgame maneuver for Flash is to add lots of barracks, to have his death army of Viking Ghost bio kill off the Colossus in just one key engagement, and then he can begin flooding with basic bio, Medivacs, Marines, Marauders, with a couple of Ghosts. Very, very cool style. And as we open up the chat for questiones, I will tie it back together to say that in these games we see that Flash is very persistent about doing the same build again and 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 again, and just has confidence in those because of these nice timings. In all the timings, we see him making the game easy for himself by lining his barracks up so the production finishes at the same time, so the production's lined up. But when faced with different strategies, Flash neither stubbornly does the identical build, nor does he do a gigantic big change. It's always these adjustments, these little shunk cool things that we get to see him do in all these games that have a massive difference. And that's what I'm really excited to see him doing so well, because I think he's really awesome. Level 1's asked if I'm okay with being a mass murderer. Absolutely, because it is the funnest way to die. Let's see here. So, Totalum says, Day 9 in Game 5, do you think the 11 barracks late gameplay was possible only due to Flash's 4 command center early game opening? Or could he have supported that much production on a flat 3 base economy? I don't think that he could have supported that production on a flat 3 base economy. So I will answer your question 2 ways. I think 4 bases is probably important to being able to support that many barracks well. 80 SCVs with some muling seems important to supporting that kind of production well. But that's just 4 bases in general. I don't think it needed to be 4 fast bases for it to work. I think because Flash went for 4 bases early, he was able to get those 11 barracks sooner. But if you opened with a typical 3-base play, got your 4th up, and continued to add SCVs to it, you may have to wait to get 11 barracks pumping, but I still think that the strategy is sound enough at that point. You can easily just use your Mega Viking, Marine, Mega Ghost army to try to thwart whatever he's dealing with. Or whatever you're dealing with. Someone talking about an Unleash the Hounds nerf. There's an Unleash the Hounds nerf? I immediately opened /r/Hearthstone. Okay, let's see here. Ghost Stalker says, Day 9, would you say that the same 2/3 attack force move out rule would work with Protoss and Zerg? Or the mechanics, do they change this? No. It doesn't matter what race you're playing. The reason you move out when an upgrade's at like 2/3 done is because you want to arrive at his base at the same time as your upgrade. So for instance, if here's your base, and I begin walking out, and then right now my stim is done and I attack, nice. But if my stim is done, and I go, okay, here we come, and then I walk over here, I've wasted 30 seconds of time. So the 2/3 rule is to eliminate that waste. The extremely precise way would be to measure the distance on every map and to just know, okay, we're 38 seconds distance, so I'm going to wait till my upgrade is 38 seconds from completion before I move out. So Vexon 837 says, Day 9, throughout the series, what could Zest have done to counter these adjustments Flash was making? You pointed out that Flash seemed dominant throughout the games, but Zest should have had opportunities to take advantage of. What were these and why didn't Zest take them? I would say that that's just like a full-out other dailies topic. In almost every circumstance, because it's a strategy game, there are ways to make adjustments, there are ways to drop and to change and to do things. There's little subtle things that Zest is doing really interestingly and very well, like halting Colossus production and building Immortals instead. Like going no Templar, no Colossus, just Immortals at certain times that I think is very successful. I'd have to just zoom in and look very intently, because Flash is doing some pretty subtle stuff, so the answers to that would be pretty subtle. Which is not a good answer, but I think I would rather say I don't have the information to give a good answer than lie to you. I don't want to just lie and be like, well, you know what, I don't have any data, so let me just make something up that sounds convincing, and yeah, I feel good about myself. That'd be such a fucking douchebag. Let me see if there's something I can think of off the top of my head. A big question in my eyes is, how does the style from Flash deal with the very passive Mass Zealot style? I don't know. I don't know. In a lot of these games, Zest was the initiator. He threw stuff at Flash early, and Flash kind of had to deal with that stuff. This game was the only one that was a little different than that. And this game was the longest one of the series. So I don't know if it's just Zest did a build and was like, brr. Well, it didn't work out. Brr. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Hanzosk, or it's actually probably Hanzo SC, has a fantastic question. Do you think Flash's style only works so well in the current meta where Protosses are rushing Colossus tech and trying to reach the late game with proper upgrades? I mean, the simple answer is I don't... I am going to say no. I don't think it's a current meta type thing. And here is my reasoning. Flash's opening game structure is so sound to any early attack timing and gives Flash so many options later on that, supposing the Protoss metagame shifts to something completely different, doing the same basic types of openings that Flash is doing, I think are very likely going to give him all the opportunities he needs to adjust, or even to change, to the new metagame. I think to zoom in a little more on that question, is this skip on 2/2 upgrade style and to stay on Ghost, Viking, Marine, Marauder, Medevac, is that going to be good against everything? And the answer is probably not. There's probably styles where it will suffer. But coming back to the first thing I said, Flash is going to have a good, solid foundation, and he will have scouted. So I think that in a future where, let's say, there's like 3 different big metagame categories where the Protoss can play, against this one where Protoss are going fast upgrade, Flash might just skip his upgrades and do the same thing here. Maybe against a super gateway heavy no robo army, Flash would do something different, like go Widow Mines with bio and upgrades. He might have a different generalized answer to that. But I think it's fair to say in this circumstance, Flash has a style that works, and if you were to go try this on the ladder, try to just do this thing that Flash is doing and try to make it work. Be persistent. Stick to that build. Work on it really, really, really hard. And what you'll feel happening if you make yourself repeat it a lot is you'll just feel a natural where you'll go, yeah, you know, I can do the Flash style 95% of the time, but I really got to change in this 5%. And that's totally fine. An example that I experienced in the Brood War days is that I divided mentally Protoss into 1 base openings and 2 base openings. And I just played a style that was this way versus 2 base and that way versus 1 base. And on the 1 bases, I was having some weird wins and some weird losses, and after a while it just went and I broke 1 basing into 2 gate openings, or 1-gate fast gas openings. And those were the 3 openings that I mentally categorized it as. Early 2-base, fast gas, fast 2 gate. And that's the only way, and that was my process for sort of causing that to happen. So those are my 2 answers. The first is, it might not. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But I think the second one is more important. Go try it, go do the same damn thing, billion games in a row, and you'll start to just feel when it splits in half. But obviously, if Flash is winning IEM Toronto with it, it's pretty good. Yay! Thanks for watching the show. I'm Gross. Yay! I'll see you tomorrow. Please go laugh excessively for no reason. We're going to do a little bit... Whoops, not the starting soon sign. We're going to do a little bit of Hearthstone tomorrow.